Well, after 8 years raising Icelandic sheep, we're going to show you something that I don't feel they are really a grazing animal. These are definitely more of a browsing sheep, and we're going to show you why we think that. So we've just let the sheep out into the back farmyard, and the first thing they target is all the higher up weeds growth. That is their preference, way ahead of grass. So I talk about this time and time again. I really do feel Icelandic sheep are more like a goat, or potentially a weird browser that will graze if they have no choice. The funny part about these sheep is when you let them out into an area, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be as tall a growth as this. When you let them out in an area, they just disperse. As you can see, I'm going to walk a little bit further here. They are spread out everywhere. They're very happy now, and when they're happy, they're extremely quiet. But having raised goats for quite a few years as well, it is interesting to notice that they are, in my mind, a little more similar in the feeding habits to goats than they are to some of the other sheep breeds. Now, this is one thing that we definitely find about the Icelandics, is they're kind of touted as a fairly thrifty breed, so that doesn't need really lush, nice pasture. And there's some truth to that, but I think it's a bit misleading because they really do like succulent growth. Obviously that changes during the year. In the fall they will eat some things that they don't eat this time of year. Anyways, this is just kind of an opinion piece. Rotational grazing is important for them because of the parasite issues, but given the opportunity, these are definitely a browsing sheep. And I know most sheep will browse given the opportunity, but they'll target a lot of this taller stuff. And they do have this interesting bit where they sort of avoid the really short growth, which I can take you over and show you where they've been for the last week. And you'll see there's still a lot of food left. And anyways, this morning they were to the point that they were extremely unhappy with what was left. You'd almost think that we don't feed these sheep, but we do. They just think they're hard done by. So here's the pasture that the sheep were in. As you can see, I mean, if I walk out there, there are some sections that are a little less lush, but for the most part, there's a lot of green food out here. And essentially, they were to the point that even though there is a lot of food out here that they still find quite palatable, things like the burdock, they really like the plantain, etc. You can see down in front here, there's tons of those kind of plants, and they just decided they didn't want it anymore. So this is something to think about with Icelandic sheep, at least from our experience, is you are going to have to move them quite a bit to keep them happy. And the geese are extremely happy now because they don't have to share this pasture with the Icelandic sheep anymore, but there's still a lot of food for them. It just gives you an idea that they do like a lot of space, and sometimes you can trick them into eating an area again just by sort of moving them. So this video really doesn't have a huge epiphany of anything. We just figured it was a good time to show what we mean when we say they're a little bit more of a browsing sheep than a grazing sheep. And even though they are considered a thrifty breed, I mean, where they come from, it makes sense. But at the same time, where they come from, they have a lot of variety of different species that they can feed on. And although I've never been to Iceland, I do know in a lot of Arctic areas there is a lot of shrubby vegetation, etc. So it does make sense that they would be a little bit more of a browser. And so they don't necessarily need lush improved pasture. But in eastern North America, poor pasture usually is fairly coarse grasses and that sort of thing. Our goldenrod, which we've done some videos in the past on that, not one of their favorites. So yeah, not quite the thrifty breed necessarily that they're touted to be, but still will consume a huge variety of different plants. And I think My last thought on this, although this video does sound a little bit negative, is I definitely find of all the different species I've ever kept, and this includes pigs, even some pretty large pigs, I would definitely say the Icelandic sheep are number one for the greediest animal, i.e. they are extremely food motivated. And I know if you have a bucket of grain, most grazers or large hoofed animals are going to be pretty food motivated, but yeah, I would say the Icelandic sheep are by far and large the most food motivated animals we've ever kept. And I think that's saying something. So on that note, they're happy at the moment. That'll probably do them for the better part of the week. Maybe not quite. Depends how much they eat. But the rule of thumb here is just keep them moving.